This tiny 1.9-liter PC can barely hold on to 30 frames per second, and that might be fine for now, except it really isn't, especially with GTA 6 coming up. Okay, maybe in about 10 months. So today, I'm upgrading this mini PC with one simple goal in mind: pushing past 100 frames per second in competitive shooters and hitting a smooth, playable 30 frames per second in modern AAA games, all inside a case this small. The risky part? I'm honestly not even sure this upgrade is going to work. 2 months ago, I bought this mini PC because I loved how portable it was. I could throw it in a backpack, take it to a cafe, set it on the tiniest desk imaginable, and call it a full gaming setup. But once I started playing real games, reality kicked in. Around 30 frames per second. Technically playable, yes, but definitely not exciting. I've already gone through the settings, lowered everything that could be lowered, and tried every optimization trick I know, which means there's really only one option left. So yeah, this is where I spend more money. Let's see how much performance we can actually squeeze out of something this small. You might not know this, but this is actually an ASRock DeskMini X300, and I picked it up for $100. I'll be honest, this thing isn't exactly designed for gaming. It's incredibly small, basically fits in the palm of your hand, and because of that compact size, you really can't expect it to have all the features of a regular desktop motherboard. That said, what surprised me is that it still comes with 2 NVMe SSD slots plus SATA SSD support, along with 2 RAM slots. So on paper, it actually checks most of the boxes for a basic gaming system. The one thing every gaming PC should have, and this one doesn't, is a PCIe slot for a dedicated graphics card. Technically, you can work around that by using an M2 to PCIe adapter or even an eGPU dock. And yes, that can boost performance a lot. But let's be real, those options get expensive really fast, and they kind of defeat the whole point of going small in the first place. So realistically, the only meaningful upgrade path here is the CPU itself. Right now I'm running a Ryzen 3 2200G, a CPU that came out about 8 years ago. It's a 4-core, 4-thread chip, and in games like Fortnite, it only manages around 30 to 40 frames per second. In GTA 5, it's roughly the same, about 40 frames per second. So yeah, if I want better gaming performance, the CPU upgrade is really my only option here. And that's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. I'm selling the Ryzen 3 2200G to upgrade to something more powerful. Right now, that CPU goes for around $20. So I decided to add about $130 on top of that and look for a much stronger option. Once again, I headed over to eBay, and at this price range, there are actually quite a few solid choices. The first obvious option is the Ryzen 5 5600G, priced at around $145. It comes with 6 cores and 12 threads plus Vega 7 graphics, and on paper it already looks pretty good. But here's something not everyone thinks about. When you're not using a dedicated GPU, a stronger CPU doesn't just improve average FPS, it also makes the experience way more stable, especially when background tasks are running. After thinking about it a bit more, I decided to spend an extra $20, and that led me to this. Let's unbox it and see what's inside. And yes, I went with the Ryzen 7 5700G, which cost me $165. It's only $20 more, but in return you get 2 extra cores and 4 more threads, along with the Vega 8 iGPU. It might not sound like a huge upgrade on paper, but in real-world use, those extra CPU cores give the iGPU more breathing room, especially when the system is doing multiple things at once. And on top of that, this CPU pairs perfectly with the 3200 MHz memory I'm already running. So let's talk a bit about this CPU, or more accurately, this APU, as AMD likes to call it. The reason the GPU part of this chip is so interesting comes down to AMD's background. As you know, AMD doesn't just make CPU, they also have a long history with GPU. Now, in the dedicated graphics card market, they might not always beat NVIDIA, but when it comes to compact systems or small form factor gaming, this is really where AMD shines. Thanks to years of experience, AMD is very good at building chips that combine a CPU and a GPU on the same die and actually make them work well together. And that's also why for over a decade now, both Xbox and PlayStation have been using AMD chips. Compared to Intel's integrated graphics, AMD's iGPU are simply much more powerful, especially when it comes to gaming. That's what makes these APUs so interesting for builds like this one. Let me quickly run through the specs. This chip comes with 8 cores and 16 threads, a base clock of 3.8 GHz, and it can boost up to 4.6 GHz. But honestly, that's not the part I care about the most. What really matters here is the iGPU inside. The Vega 8. At the time it launched, this was one of the strongest integrated graphics solutions you could get on a desktop. It has 8 compute units, which means 512 shader cores, running at clock speeds of up to 2.0 GHz. Since this is an iGPU, it doesn't have its own VRAM. Instead, it uses system memory, which means RAM speed has a huge impact on performance. That's why dual-channel RAM is basically a must if you want to get the most out of an iGPU like this. In an ideal setup, performance ends up being roughly on par with a GT 1030, except this uses less power and doesn't require a separate graphics card. Of course, since then we've seen even stronger iGPUs come out like the 890M, or absolute monsters like the 8060S, which can even outperform an RTX 3060 in certain scenarios. And the crazy part is, those laptops still come in at surprisingly reasonable prices, sometimes not that far off from the cost of a high-end GPU alone. So when I say this is one of the most popular and best value iGPU ever made, especially considering how cheap it is today, I don't think that's an exaggeration at all. This video is already getting pretty long, so let's jump straight into checking the actual performance of this APU. Starting with a quick CPU benchmark. In multi-core, it scores around 6,600 points, and in single-core, about 635 points. Compared to the old Ryzen 3 2200G, this is a massive improvement. But more importantly, let's talk about the iGPU performance. In Heaven Benchmark, running at 1080p, medium settings, I got an average of 34 frames per second, with the lowest dip being around 24 frames per second. That tells me the iGPU is actually quite stable and doesn't suffer from heavy frame drops during the test. Now for the part that really matters, gaming. First up is Fortnite. At 1080p, I was honestly surprised to see it hitting around 100 frames per second, which is more than 3 times higher than before the CPU upgrade. Sure, in more complex scenes or when aiming down sights, FPS can dip a bit, but as long as there's no major stuttering or freezing, I'd easily call this a smooth and enjoyable experience. Moving on to a game that's both graphically demanding and very CPU sensitive, and also notoriously hard to run on an iGPU, CS2. At low settings, I was actually able to hit a very stable 100 frames per second throughout my playtime. That alone already meets the goal I set at the beginning of this upgrade. After that, I tested the same game on a different operating system, Bazzite 43. This isn't just regular Linux, it's a gaming-focused Linux distro, so I wanted to see if it made any difference. Using the exact same settings, FPS dropped to around 80, which is roughly 20 FPS lower than what I got on Windows. Next up is the iGPU's worst enemy, Cyberpunk 2077. To make it playable at all, I had to drop the settings to low and lower the resolution to 720p. At that point, I could get a playable experience at around 30 frames per second. Switching to Linux didn't really change much here. Performance stayed roughly the same, hovering around 30 frames per second. So what about open-world games? In Minecraft, with a 32-chunk render distance, the system consistently stays above 60 frames per second, usually sitting around 80. I even stress tested it by blowing up a house with 1,000 TNT blocks, and surprisingly, it held up pretty well. The lowest frames per second I saw during the explosion was around 34, which is honestly impressive. And when I turned on bliss shaders using the fast preset, this APU still managed to stay very close to 60 frames per second. That's something that even a lot of older dedicated GPUs struggle to do, and it genuinely impressed me. So to wrap things up, I'm actually pretty happy with how this mini PC performed. For light esports titles, it handles them really well without any major issues. For more graphics-heavy games, they're still playable, but you do have to turn the settings down. If you're someone who can't install a dedicated GPU and needs a system that's portable and easy to carry around, this can be a reasonable option. That said, in an ideal situation, you could easily build a PC with a $65 CPU and a $100 GPU and get noticeably better gaming performance. So yeah, that's pretty much everything about this tiny little PC. What do you think about it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.